Africa and the globe. So you are all welcome. Just some housekeeping in terms of our dinner before we start with the formalities. You'll see there's a menu at the table. Just select whatever you're going to take for the main course. Write your name and the table number. Important, very important to write the table number. So each table has a table number, and then you write your name on the card and select your main course and I think dessert, what it is you're going to have. We are providing, Ariel, can you please get settled? We are providing some red wine, South African red wine, South African white wine. For those international visitors, please enjoy the local wine. South Africa has the best wines in the world, so we hope you enjoy the wines. We are also providing you with water, so there's water at the tables and soft drinks. There is a bar outside, but it's a cash bar if you do not take wine. Or soft drink in case you want a beer or something else. So feel free to order from the waiters, but it's at your own account. You will have to pay for that. But the rest of the other drinks it's on the house. So once we settled, I will then make sure that we start. I'm just going to get to our table that's taking the first part of the program, and then we will start shortly. Thank you. Okay, good evening once again. I hope everybody's settled now. And I hope with that short interval, I've allowed everybody now to settle, you know who's who at your table. And today is really about networking, meeting new friends. Those who work together and see each other every day, I hope you're not sitting together. You should be sitting at other tables to meet new people. So I see the table at the back there. You need to spread yourselves, and also my council members. Hope they will also engage with the rest of the audience. But thank you very much. I think we can get our program going now. I've already given the protocols, so you know what's expected for today in terms of our program. So good evening, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, colleagues, esteemed partners from government, academia, industry, the national system of innovation at large, and the diplomatic community. I'd like to acknowledge Ms. Gugu Zwane, the Deputy Director General for Institutional Planning and Support from the Department of Science, Technology and Innovation. Dr. Janchis, the NACI Council member, but was also standing in on behalf of the Council chairperson. Our NACI Council members who are to my left, who are in attendance, as NACI is the host of this dinner. Heads and CEOs of our entities who've also been invited. Professor Erica Kramambula, the head of the DSTI NRF Newton Fund Trilateral Chair in Transformative Innovation, 4IR Sustainable Development at the University of Johannesburg. Distinguished scholars, Professor Lundvall, Professor Gabriela, Dr. Kingiri, and all other our local scholars who are here. Ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. This evening, we gather to reflect the pivotal role of scholarly advice in shaping future-ready STI policy. Our dialogue tonight seeks to deepen the interrogation of research-based insight into policymaking at national, regional, and global levels. By fostering meaningful engagement between international thought leaders and South African National System of Innovation stakeholders, and to reimagine how advisory roles can be institutionalized in ways that are inclusive, responsive, and forward-looking. This dinner is convened under the theme of the role of scholarly advice in shaping future-ready STI policy. It is timely and pivotal conversation, particularly within the context of South Africa's evolving science, technology, and innovation policy landscape. In our national journey, the 1996 White Paper on Science, Technology, and Innovation laid the foundation for our national system of innovation, providing a framework to guide STI policy and institutional reform. And that vision continues to resonate through the now 2019 White Paper on Science, Technology, and Innovation, and remains embedded in our current Science, Technology, and Innovation Decadal Plan, which charts the course towards 2032. Access to global leading policy frameworks converge on shared conviction that science, technology, and innovation must be placed at the center of sustainable development and societal progress. The African Union's Science, Technology, and Innovation Strategy for Africa 2034 positions STI at the epicenter of Africa's transformation and knowledge economy. The G20 underscored STI as a catalyst for equitable, inclusive, and sustainable growth, ensuring that innovation serves humanity as a global public good. Similarly, BRICS recognizes the same by placing STI as a strategic pillar. We also know that the concept of national system of innovation originally emerged from the developed world, emphasizing that science, technology, and innovation are key drivers for productivity, resilience, and well-being. I would also like to say, in alignment with this global perspective, the Minister for Science, Technology, and Innovation, Honorable Professor Zimande, says his mantra, by placing science, technology, and innovation in government, education, industry, and society, which captures South Africa's commitment to a future-ready, inclusive, and transformative national system of innovation that is globally connected and locally grounded. As the National Advisory Council on Innovation, we hope that this evening's exchange may inspire new partnerships, fresh thinking, shared commitment to advance innovation for sustainable, equitable development. We hope it also strengthens dialogue between government, academia, and international networks on advisory functions of STI policy, provides concrete proposals for enhancing STI capabilities in South Africa and Africa. So I thank you with those opening remarks as we start our program. So without further ado, let me please introduce Deputy Director General, Ms. Gugu Zwane, who is the DDG for Institutional Planning and Support at the Department of Science, Technology and Innovation. Over to you, DDG.
Program Director, Program Director, Dr. Jantjies, representing Mr. Manyoni, the Chairperson of the NACI Council, heads and representatives of Department of Science, Technology and Innovation entities that are present, University of Johannesburg's Trilateral Chair and in Transformative Innovation, Professor Erica Gramambula, distinguished scholars, Professor Landfall, Professor Durant, Dr. Kigiri, and Professor Mugabe, and all protocol that I would like to observe this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I am delivering an opening address on behalf of Dr. Cele, the Director General of the Department of Science, Technology and Innovation. It is a great pleasure to welcome you to this special gathering on behalf of the Department of Science, Technology and Innovation. This evening brings together global thinkers, policy shapers, and champions of innovation at a critical moment for the world. Many of you will recall that in September 2024, heads of states and government met at the United Nations to reflect on the future of our shared world. They acknowledged that we are living in a period of profound global transformation marked by existential threats and the terrible suffering of countless people. However, this is also a time of hope and opportunity, a moment that calls not for despair, but for renewal, not for withdrawal, but for the courage and cooperation rooted in our common humanity. There is a Pan-African idea that resonates strongly here. As Africans, we are bound by a shared history and as humanity by a common future. As our Ubuntu philosophy, I am because we are, reminds us, and as President Ramaphosa always says, progress is never a solitary pursuit. It is always a shared endeavor. Across the world, and in line with South Africa's vision and decadal plan for science, technology, and innovation, we do believe that increasing and applying knowledge will enable us to build an inclusive, sustainable, and prosperous future for all. We recognize that as set out in the Pact for the Future, the moment and power of emerging technologies are reshaping the human condition at an unprecedented pace. We agree that advances in science, technology, and innovation must serve both people and the planet. Our white paper on science, technology, and innovation reminds us that science must serve a purpose. Our department's mantra to place science, technology, and innovation at the center of government, education, industry, and society. To realize this vision, we as policymakers need the strongest foundation possible. We need scholarship that challenges our thinking, evidence that is relevant and has been rigorously examined, and policy advice that is practical and bold. It is therefore essential to strengthen the relationship between scholarly expertise and the way we design, implement, and evaluate science, technology, and innovation policy at every level. And we are grateful to the National Advisory Council on Innovation and UJ for convening this gathering. We meet as South Africa hosts its annual science forum, which seeks to ignite conversations about science with all actors in our national system of innovation, our international partners, and the general public. This follows the conclusion of our G20 presidency, which culminated only a few days ago in the adoption of the G20 declaration, a powerful affirmation that multilateralism is alive, that international collaboration matters, and that when nations work together, they can indeed shape a more just, sustainable, and peaceful future. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished scholars, welcome once again to this special evening. I wish you rich discussions, meaningful connections, and the warmth of good food, good company, and good friendship under our South African sky. Thank you.
Thank you, DDG, for those welcome remarks on behalf of the Department of Science, Technology and Innovation. It is important because the National Advisory Council on Innovation is one of the entities of the Department of Science, Technology and Innovation. So it's important that we had their presence in this dinner. I'd like to then welcome to the stage, before you come to the stage, Dr. Jantjies, I'd just like to introduce you from here before you come up. So I'd like to then invite Dr. Mamiki Jantjies, the NACI Council member, but is also delivering the remarks on behalf of our chairperson of council. Dr. Jantjies is a group executive for innovation at Telkom and the associate professor at the University of Western Cape, as well as a NACI Council member. Her academic work focuses on information and communication technologies for development, data-driven innovation, and design for social technical systems that promote equitable access to emerging technologies to inform national policy across sectors. We have shared the program so you can read further. I'd also like to highlight that she's a member of the research communities, South African Young Academy of Science, SAIS, World Economic Forum, Young Global Leader, an Aspen New Voices Fellow. And we are happy to announce that Dr. Jantjies was recently appointed by the UN Secretary General as one of 14 independent scientists in the world to draft the 2027 Global Sustainable Development Report. Over to you, Dr. Jantjies.
Thank you for the very warm welcome. A very popular saying by the late Nelson Mandela is that when you speak to a person in their language, you speak to their hearts. We have got multitudes of language, races, representation in the room. And we're going to do something very exciting. You're going to turn to the person next to you. Let's get the instruction clearly first as scientists. Turn to the person next to you and greet them in your language, in a language that they probably don't understand, don't even know that you spoke, and wait for them to greet you in their language. And then I will greet you. They are. Okay, thank you very much. I can see some of the greetings included hugs. That's a beautiful language. Thank you. Thank you. Greeting in Africa is very important. And therefore, you will pardon me the very long list of acknowledgements that I'm about to give, because greeting matters. To the DDG, Madam Gugu Zwane, representing the DG, Program Director and Acting CEO of the National Advisory Council of Innovation, Ms. Annalene Morgan, all of the National Advisory Council members who are represented here today, distinguished heads and CEOs of various entities represented this evening, Miss Erica Kramer. Now, I will tell you, we were in a coaching session with Annelien. I even sat with a prof, I'm getting nervous now having to pronounce his name, Professor Lundvall. He was coaching me on how to pronounce his name. Professor Erica, who's the head of the trilateral chair in transformation, innovation, the fourth industrial revolution, and sustainable development at the University of Johannesburg. Our distinguished scholars, Professor Lundvall, Professor Gabriela, Professor Mugabe, Dr. Kingri, members of our diplomatic community, ambassadors and high commissioners, esteemed representatives and scholars from the South African National System of Innovation, distinguished guests, anybody who I may have left, you are very, very welcome. All protocol observed. Let me also convey the greetings from our chairperson, the National Advisory Council Chair, Mr. Tilson Manyoni, who could not be here tonight, and I am delivering this speech on his behalf. Tonight, we gather under the inspiring theme, the role of scholarly advice in shaping future-ready science, technology, and innovation policy. This dinner is more than a ceremonial gathering. It is a call for reflection. In an era that is definitely defined by rapid technological changes, climate uncertainty, and shifting global dynamics, the bridge between research and policy has never been more critical. Academic research is one of the most powerful pillars we have to navigate complexities, anticipate future challenges, and design public policy that is both innovative and evidence-based. Following the successful hosting of the National System of Innovation and Transformation Summit in March 2025 by the NACI Council, by NACI and the Department of Science, Technology and Innovation, the summit aimed to address the following key questions, namely, why has the post-apartheid NSI transformation not yielded the desired outcomes? And how can we deepen and accelerate the transformation of NSI and knowledge to better serve science, society, and the planet? In September, we also convened a successful G20 Chief Science Advisors Roundtable meeting, where the G20 member countries adopted the outcome statement. The outcome statement is a reflection of constructive international engagement and solidarity on strategic role of science advice for addressing some of the most pressing challenges of our time. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, this evening I'd like to focus specifically on the role that academic research plays in shaping public policy. At its core, academic research contributes in 4 vital ways to effective policy making. While I'm preaching to the converted, it is important to emphasize. Firstly, it provides an evidence base for decision-making research and transforms information into insight and enables policy that is grounded in rigorous, credible, and actionable knowledge. In a time where multilateralism faces significant challenges, this pillar is so crucial. Secondly, it fosters innovation and foresight. Academic institutions are our laboratories of innovation and should be protected as such, spaces where new ideas are tested and futures imagined. From academic research, we gain foresight into emerging technologies, societal shifts, and potential disruptions. This foresight enables people such as ourselves in this room and policymakers to prepare not for yesterday's problems, but for tomorrow's possibilities, and ensure our STI policies are future ready. Thirdly, it ensures transparency, accountability at a time where we're desperately needed, inclusivity. It does this by strengthening democratic governance through producing transparent, verifiable evidence, by holding decision makers accountable, and amplifies the voice of communities who might otherwise not be represented. The last vital role is by bridging the gap between knowledge and action. This is realized only when it moves beyond the pages of our journals into the hands of policymakers. This requires deliberate effort that forces us to bridge the gap between knowledge generation and policy implementation. Therefore, strengthening the dialogue between academia, government, industry, society is key. It is through these partnerships that research becomes policy and policy becomes progress. Ladies and gentlemen, the relationship between academic research and public policy is not optional. It is essential. Because when research informs policy, policy gains depth, it gains foresight, it gains legitimacy. Furthermore, when policy embraces research, society moves closer to inclusive development and sustainable growth. As we gather here tonight, we each have a role to play. Let us deepen collaboration between universities, research council, government institutions, industry, and society. Let us make academic research more accessible. Let us make it relevant. Let us make it actionable. And let us reaffirm our shared commitment to ensuring that every policy is informed not only by political judgment, but by scientific evidence, ethical reasoning, and most important, it is rooted in societal need. In closing, as we continue the evening's discussions, may we be guided by the conviction that knowledge must not remain in books, reports, and published papers, which are also quite essential. It must serve the nations, it must shape the future, and it must transform lives. Welcome to this evening's festivities, and let it be a continuum of us co-creating the future together. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Junctius. I think let's give another round of applause. Thank you. Especially since Naki is a host of this dinner in partnership with the University of Johannesburg. I'd like now to call upon our partner in this dinner, Professor Erica Kramambula, who is a professor in economics and holds the chair for the DS Science, Technology and Innovation, NRF Trilateral Chair, Research Chair in Transformative Innovation, the Fourth Industrial Revolution, and Sustainable Development at the University of Johannesburg, who is our partner this evening. This chair is also a partnership with the African Center for Technology Studies, ACS, and also the Science Policy Research Unit, SPRU, from the University of Sussex. Professor Mbula holds a doctorate in development studies from the University of Oxford, and she specializes in innovation systems, sustainable development, pathways of African economies, and is widely recognized for her pioneering work on innovation within African informal sector. Welcome, Professor Erica.
Thank you. Good evening. Colleagues, distinguished guests, Deputy Director General from the STI, NACI councillors, Dr. Yankees, NACI CEO, Annelien Morgan, fellow scholars from Globalix. Please allow me to say all protocol observed. Thank you so much. My name is Erica Kremer-Mbula. I am the current president of Globalix. We've just closed a very engaging and successful conference, and it's a privilege to be here tonight. I would like to start by expressing my sincere appreciation for the National Advisory Council on Innovation for convening this Global Thought Leader dialogue in collaboration with UJ. So it's wonderful to see, and I think it's part of the design to bring all of these stakeholders together, to have stakeholders from government, academia, funding agencies, and of course the Globalix community gather in one room to discuss policy advice and what an international network, a global academic network like Globalix can offer in terms of good practices and experience in providing science and technology and innovation policy advice. It's been repeated throughout the conference, but also here tonight, that we are at a moment when science, technology, and innovation systems are under quite an intense pressure to respond to multiple transitions: the ecological transition, the digital transition, geopolitical transition, social. And the topic of this event tonight reminds us that advisory roles have never been more important than today. Let me just, for those who are in the room who may not know the network, I just want to provide a brief overview of GlobalX. GlobalX is a global community of knowledge and research on innovation and development. It was founded over 2 decades ago, based on the idea that innovation must be understood in context. That innovation is shaped by histories, by institutions, by capabilities, by cultures, and that the perspectives from the global south are very important. Today, GlobalX has grown into a large intellectual and academic community with regional chapters in every continent. So we have the Latin American chapter, the African chapter, the Asian chapter, and also country chapters, advancing these ideas in very context-relevant ways. And many of the colleagues that have been from the beginning of the network and those who have joined at a later stage are here tonight. We have Professor Lundvall, who is one of the founders of the network. Gabriela Dutrenit has been there from the very beginning as well, and also as leading the Latin American work of the network. We have KJ Joseph, who is the current Secretary General, but many others that are here that have played very important roles at different stages of the evolution of this network. But GlobalX is more, and the reason why we're here tonight is because GlobalX is more than a research community. It's a platform for learning, and it's a resource for governments. And many of the scholars that are here and those that are part of the network have served as advisors to governments in their own countries, in their own regions, in science, technology, and innovation councils, in regional bodies, international organizations, and so on. So it's on that expertise that we want to tap on tonight to get a sense of what kind of good practices and experiences is worth sharing, and as part of the spirit of GlobalX, which is about learning from each other and sharing across continents, across countries. So we will bring comparative experiences from Latin America, from Asia, from Africa, from Europe, regions that have taken very different pathways and tried very different ways of advancing and supporting the innovation systems, made very different mistakes and have very different stories of success. So it's this comparative reflection that is going to help us advance our discussion tonight, and also is part of the reflective tradition that really is at the core of what GlobalX is. And just very briefly in concluding, I want to perhaps give you a little bit of an overview of how the GlobalX community, a bit more insight into how the GlobalX community does and has contributed to the world of policy. First of all, I think it's providing concepts that help governments make sense of complexity. And the concept of innovation systems that Professor Lundvall has very much pioneered has been taken up in many parts of the world, including South Africa, as a structuring framework for science, technology, and innovation policy. The white paper that was mentioned earlier of 1996, it was one of the first countries in the world to utilize this concept of innovation systems to structure innovation policy. So it really helps, those concepts and framings really help policymakers make use of them to understand and structure real-world challenges. And it's very much looking beyond the linear and to think about systems. So another area where GlobalX has contributed and overlapped with the policy world is supporting policy design and policy implementation based on a systemic perspective. And that is not easy because systems are multi-layered. They have many different dimensions, but I think unpacking that, what does it mean to design, to implement, to monitor and evaluate a systemic policy approach is important. Also, GlobalX has served as a source and a platform of building capabilities of scholars that, being academics, have moved on and become government officials and utilize these ideas to design and to work in their own policy space as practitioners. So that is also an overlap of what the GlobalX community does and what the policy needs are. So I think these are precisely the kinds of conversations that we want to have tonight. And we have, I think, an excellent set of people to reflect on what have they done as individuals, in their role as policy advisors, but also on how can we leverage these real assets, this global network of scholars and academics that can share experiences, that can allow for this cross-sectoral, cross-country learning in a time when I think interactions across the Global South are particularly relevant. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Erica, and also our partner in this dinner. Let's give another round of applause. Thank you very much to all our speakers. We are actually on time with our program. But I think before we're going to get into the starters now, so we'll have a bit of an interval where they will bring the plated starter. So we'll have our starters. So while you're enjoying your starters, we will then take a few minutes and then we'll start the next session. So we'll allow our next panel members to quickly enjoy the starter. And then after they've enjoyed the starter, we'll call them up to the stage to take the first panel. So I thought it's important not to rush you. Enjoy your starter. I will not rush you. I will not rush you. But I think it's important to mention that we are also convening this dinner or hosting this dinner within the context of the Science Forum South Africa. As you know, officially opened by the minister yesterday on the 25th of November. It started on the 24th of November, but our minister officially opened the Science Forum yesterday. And the Science Forum celebrates 10 years of its existence this year. So it's also the 10-year celebration of the forum. And the whole idea of the forum is to ensure that it serves a large open platform, public platform, for debating science and society interface. And the theme for this year's forum is igniting conversations about science, placing science, technology, and innovation at the center of government, education, industry, and society. Enjoy your starter. I hope you all enjoyed your starters. Can we get settled so that we can continue with the program? We're happy that we have this format of a plated dinner, so that in between it allows for the conversations, the interactions, and moving around the various tables. And I think we've given you enough time to digest your starter and enjoy your starter. I've received very good reviews of the starter. Some people had seconds and thirds, so that's very good. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, yeah. So I'm now going to, before I call over Professor Erica, who's going to facilitate the next session. And this is really why we've called this dinner. This dinner is really to engage with our both global and African thought leaders. And this is really the highlight of the dinner. Earlier, I was telling Professor Landveld and Professor Gabriela that we are at the celebrities. These are the celebrities. We have the Oscars and all of that. So these are the Oscars of science, technology, and innovation, our celebrities. So we are very honored that we are with them in one room and going to be engaging with them on issues of science, technology, and innovation policy. I'd like to acknowledge the presence of Mr. Patel, Mr. Imran Patel, the Deputy Director General for Research and Development Support from the Department of Science, Technology and Innovation. Welcome, Mr. Patel. This afternoon, when Professor Erica did the closing at GlobalX, you'll recall you had Dr. Thandi Mkwebu, who presented on the PhD, presidential PhD program. And that program is under the Dr. Patel's leadership. So he's the one who's leading that program. And the NRF reports on that program to him. So we're very happy. I'd also like to acknowledge the presence of the embassies of Japan, Ms. Kaneko, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. And then also the embassy of Switzerland, Ms. Jackie Friedendahl, who's also here, the science attaché. If there are any other embassies that are here, please let me know so that we can acknowledge you and acknowledge those embassies. Thank you very much for your presence. And lastly, I would also like to acknowledge a representative of the Office of the Executive Mayor of Tshwane. As you know, we are in the city of Tshwane. So we've got a representative from the Office of the Executive Mayor, Mr. Mpho Madisha. Welcome. Thank you very much. So colleagues, let me then invite Professor Krama-Mbula to please, this is really the highlight of this evening. Over to you.
All right. So we are in the Oscars. That is great. So what I would do is I will introduce our panelists very briefly, and then I will invite you to come, and then we'll have a conversation. So first we'll have Professor Benthoke Lundvall. He is a world-known foundational scholar in innovation studies. He is best known for introducing the concept of innovation systems and advancing the idea of innovation as an interactive learning process. I won't read his bio and his CV because it's too many things that he's done. So we are very happy to have you with us, Prof. Lundvall. Then we have Professor Gabriela Dutrenit. Gabriela is the Vice President of the Latin American chapter of GlobalX, and she has been founder and a president of the Latin American work of GlobalX for a very long time. She's a distinguished professor at the Universidad Autónoma Metropolitana in Mexico, and she also holds the title of Emeritus Researcher in the Mexican National System of Researchers. I'll also like to invite Prof. Mugabe. Professor John Mugabe is a professor of science and innovation policy at the University of Pretoria's Graduate School of Technology Management and a senior consultant to the African Development Bank, as well as a senior associate fellow at the Science Policy Research Unit at the University of Sussex. He's been very involved in STISA, developing the African strategy for science, technology, and innovation. So he's got a very good sense of the African regional innovation landscape as well. So this is our STEAM panel, and I will stand here. I'll go one by one, and perhaps I will go in the order in which you were called to the stage. And I will ask you generally a very general question. I would like you to start by sharing with us your experience, your individual experience as a policy advisor in your own context, as well as reflections on how this network is well placed to provide examples of such work.
I was quite worried where Mrs. Morgan said that formalities are very important here in Africa. I'm terrible at formalities. So may I call you Anneline? Yes. And may I call you Maki? Yes, yes. And may I say that I have enormous respect for your work. It's extremely important, but I'm not good at formalities. So let me try to say that what I'm going to speak about is interaction between science and policy in a context of innovation systems. And when I worked at the OECD in the beginning of the 1990s, around 95, actually, there was a delegation from South Africa who came and said, what is this business about innovation systems? And they were like you, strong women. I was quite impressed. And I understand that this was expressed in a white paper in 96. So I think to discuss this issue is quite relevant here in South Africa. I'm going to do something quite paradoxical. I'm going to speak about my experiences from studying a very small, rich innovation system in Denmark. And it's, for me, a paradox, but I think what we learned from that and how we did that has enormous relevance for South Africa. Number one, we decided that innovation has to do with the use and production of knowledge. Next step was to say that it's all kinds of knowledge. It's not only science, it's engineering and design knowledge. It's also the skills of the professional workers, and it's also the skills of farmers, and even the tacit knowledge of ordinary activities. All these things matter. And when we did the research, we brought together a big team, which was interdisciplinary. There were some economists, some business economists, there were organization people, there were labor market people, and there were education and training people. And we tried to, and this corresponds very much to Global X, where it says learning, innovation, and competence building system. It's not science, technology, innovation system. It's learning, innovation, competence building system. So I think this is even more fundamental for a country like South Africa. It's even more fundamental to recognize the importance of all kinds of knowledge and see how you can mobilize that in a way to strengthen the innovation system. That's my first point. Second point is that we sometimes talk about some knowledge transfer from science to policy. I think that might be a mistake. I think what we really have here, and this is one of my key concepts, it's interactive learning. It means that we need mutual learning. We need learning among policymakers from academics and scholars, but we also need learning among academics from policymakers. I'm even sometimes a little, so I will go on that. I also give a few lectures every year to SDI policymakers from Africa. I meet them in Lund. It's a special program which has been established. And normally there are a couple of participants from South Africa, but they come from all over Africa. And one of the things they say is that the major problem, one major problem is silos. You understand silos in the sense that you have people, experts on science policy, on technology policy, on labor market policy, on education policy. And it's very difficult to create interaction within the public sphere. Breaking down, learning organizations. The key of that is breaking down these kind of barriers. And the same goes for academia. If you have economists who cannot speak to sociologists or labor market experts, etc., you will get research of very limited utility. So we need to think about how to combine interdisciplinary in the research area with trying to break down barriers within the public sector. I think this is something we learned. In very concrete terms, this project had, I think we had like 9 PhD students. It was really a big one. And 3 of these were financed by the Ministry of Industry and Trade. 3 of them were financed by them. And actually what happened was, or what the contract was, that these 3 should spend at least 1 out of 3 years working in the ministry. So they were sitting together with people solving concrete problems in the industry for 1 year. And that meant that when they went back to finalize their PhD thesis, they had a quiet feeling for what are the problems? And they didn't come up with sky-like ideas which had no reality. They had this feeling of not only of science-based, but also experience-based knowledge. So I would say all these things, I think in a sense, are highly relevant for South Africa. And I know, of course, that it's not easy. It's not easy to change organizations, neither at university nor in ministries or across ministries. It's not easy, but I think you can gain a lot by trying to break down silos, by trying to cross disciplines. And that requires a kind of a very critical approach to how you do things. But I think this could be a good way ahead. Thank you very much.
Excellent. I will move straight to Gabriela. And you have your mic. Yeah, great.
I am very happy to be here and reflect on how advisory roles can be institutionalized and made more inclusive, responsive, and future fit. I am going to present the experience of an organization in Mexico, which was a council, an advisory council on science, technology, and innovation, and particularly for the design of science, technology, and innovation policies some years ago. And this organization was an advisory council that contributed to the science, technology, and innovation activities of the state. That the existing objective, competence, and work of this advisory council were defined by a set of normative bodies. First of all, and the most important, was the Science and Technology Law that was operating in Mexico from 2002 to January to 2023. And then the main objective was to promote the expression of the science, technology, and innovation community. And there were three basic functions: counseling in programming, the policy design, and instrumentation. The second was counseling in budgeting, contribute to defining the budget of science, technology, and innovation. And also the third basic function was policy evaluation. And the main result was, at the end, public policy on science, technology, and innovation. This organization was composed, the board of directors of this organization were a set of institutions of higher education and research institutions. I have listened that here there are persons, specialists that are members of the board or something like that. In our case, they were institutions like the main National Autonomous University of Mexico and the main Technological Institute, a set of academies, the Academy of Science, the Academy of Medicine and of Engineering, etc. As the business sector was participating, was member of the board of directors also, and the main association, entrepreneurial association of the country. And also a network, an organization that was a network of the Science Technology State Council, an organization of the country. This was other, and some other members. So the Advisory Council participated in several spaces of decision-making, in the General Council of Scientific Research, Technological Development and Innovation, in a set of intersectoral budget committee and innovation committee, and the Science, Technology and Innovation Indicator Committee, in a set of committee related with the science, technology, and innovation sector. The organization, this council, had a staff of 22 people, mostly professionals, several with graduate degrees, but the most important part of the life of this organization was ad hoc and plural committees where members of the science, technology, and innovation community participated, integration, looking for plurality in terms of the actors, the disciplines, and the regions. And there were the relationship with, at that time it was, the name was CONACYT, the National Council for Science and Technology, and now we have a Ministry of Science, Technology, and Innovation. But the relationship with this organization, with the director of the Science, Technology, and Innovation activities in Mexico, was a relationship of autonomy. This organization, this council, in the case of Mexico, was autonomous. It was a civil association that managed public resources, which is a bit different with the council here, as I could see. The resources came from the Minister of Science, Technology, and Innovation, because the law said that the Ministry of Science, Technology, and Innovation had to assign the resources that were required for these activities of advice. Obviously, this requires a lot of transparency, no? But relative transparency because of the public resources, but there was relative autonomy, yes, because we were, according to the law, autonomous, but we were using public resources, so we have to respond to this with transparency. And we had relationship with the legislator, representative and national senators, with local representative at the state levels, which were more difficult because of the distance. But anyway, we had relationship with them, with other actors of the science, technology, and innovation sector, like other ministries, economy, education, etc., for a specific more punctual aspect, with other actors that were not part of the board of directors. How was the work agenda of this council defined? First of all, internally by the board of directors. And then it was a combination of the national science, technology, and innovation agenda with the agenda of the Ministry of Science, Technology, and Innovation, with the individual agenda of the member of the board, and a set of strategic objectives that were defined by the organization, the advisory board. Some strategic issues, well, for instance, the need to improve the dialogue process to truly represent the communities. So the dialogue with all the actors of the science, technology, and innovation sector, try to build the different approaches, two-way dialogue with the community, because we were like an intermediate organization, so we had to talk with the communities and with the government. And then when you talk with the community, you had to receive the information, but also, and the idea, but also go back and tell them the result of the dialogue. And then the need to build capacity for strategic thinking and be able to act as a think tank on science, technology, and innovation policies. And then avoid agency problems in the process of decision-making and implementation. Separate the process of policy design from the pressures coming from captive actors, and promote the use of evidence by the policymakers. We have to be aware of potential changes in the governance of the science, technology, and innovation system, and try to build also relationship with other actors at international level or other organizations that were related to us. I'm going to leave right here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. A very concrete example of an experience of an advisory, how the functioning of an advisory body in the case of Mexico. I will hand over to Prof. Mugabe.
Thank you. And thank you to Naki and you, Jay, for inviting me. Let me declare why I'm here, apart from the dinner. And I want to declare, I came to find out whether Professor Lundvald's, he had changed his mind. We met in 1992 in Maastricht, and at that event, a workshop organized by UNU, United Nations Intake, New Institute for New Technologies, the late Charles Cooper, and Professor Chris Freeman was there. Luke Sutte is actually the one who took me. There were two questions. One was whether innovation studies that were being conducted by SPRU, Intake then, and others were relevant to developing country contexts. And I remember that heated the discussion. The second, I think there was also on the agenda to explore whether you could do a second version of technical change and economic theory, which I still call the Bible. I don't know whether people know it. It's bigger than a Bible, any Bible that I've seen. By the way, I still have copies because I was given 160 copies to bring to Africa, and I struggled to get those copies in libraries. So technical change and economic theory. Before we actually met, I had read the 1987 OECD report, which defined national systems of innovation. And for me, there were two words there. One is institutions. In that report and in the Dorsey book, institutions were clearly defined. What are institutions? The second word was learning, a word that we take for granted. What's learning? And I think that my takeaway when I was writing my dissertation was that, in fact, innovation is really about learning, and the locus of learning is an institution. So what we talk about innovation systems, sometimes we talk of them as if they are inorganic, but they're just institutions. Learning, in the absence, you can have all kinds of agencies around, but if both the normative and the agency types of institutions are not there and articulating, and they're not learning, you can pump in money and there's no real system of innovation. That's what I took, and we had that interesting. I think there were then there were only actually 2 of us PhD fellows, interns at UNU intake. I came back from Maastricht and then worked at the African Center for Technology Studies for some time. Really my first encounter with policy making, and it was not just STI policy making, it was environmental policy making, biodiversity, climate change, and others. I still have the same questions, again, that were posed at that event. Are these innovation studies that we conduct really relevant? Are institutions perceived or configured the way we've tried to explain them in the technical change and economic theory, national systems, and all other publications? What I've learned, and this, I think the topic here is academic research and STI policy. We do a lot of research for policy. The emphasis is research for policy. But I don't see much of research on policy making itself. So we don't understand institutions. There's a lot of effort to generate ideas for policy, but we don't do much on analyzing policy-making processes, systems, and I think we need to really think about that, understanding better policy-making, the politics of policy making. When I was at AXA, I had the privilege of working on a Swedish-funded project. Carl Gustav Thomström, you may know him, Professor Lundvall, former head of SAREC. He put together a team that looked at genetic resources policy making, and I was involved in doing African case studies. And we concluded that, in fact, it's policy not to make policy. So the title of that publication is Governments Do Not Make Policy, because we conclude that inaction is actually policy. But we, again, from academia, we keep on feeding evidence for policy, even when, in fact, the decision or the policy is in action. So I'm just putting this on the table from my lessons that let's do a bit more for research on policy making as opposed to research for policy. And I think funders should be whatever. A bit of research on policy making comes as part of the evaluation, why things have not worked. But there's no serious inquiry into why governments structure policies. My experience over the last almost 20 years or 20 plus years has been at more continental level, the African Union level. I used to work for the New Partnership for Africa's Development before I went to the University of Pretoria, and one question I keep on asking, we from research community, do we do advice, or do we actually just, our business is to draft policy? I'm getting convinced that our approach is not the right one. So I spent almost 8 months in Addis, and all I do is to draft certain chapters of, and then you get it to the commission, and they'll format it, and then you eventually find out, oh, the ministers are adopting. I ask myself, they've been meeting, yes, they can change this percentage instead of 2.5% of GDP, they say keep it to 1 and. Is that really what policy making is all about? And I'm asking myself, can we, from academia, try to build policy making capacities in governments themselves, in the African Union, as opposed to us being there to write the policies for them? A related issue is, science advice. Again, with colleagues here, we've been in a number of countries. I think Erika, very recently in Botswana, with UNCTAD reviewing there, and then you ask yourself whether you are there as an advisor or you are doing something else. It's just maybe even a part of your academic exercise, collecting new data, because very often, you get a sense that they are not procuring any advice. You've just been asked, you come and advise us, but advice, there must be some capacity to procure. So again, my experience, you go around, some governments cannot even write the terms of reference. They cannot articulate, they cannot tell you which advice they are looking for. They say, oh, we want to review our policy, we want a new policy, but you say, why do you want a new policy? No, we want a new policy. I ask, why a new policy? Because our neighbor has a new policy. I'm just going to end by emphasizing this, that I think it's our obligation, this supply thing where academics are now. And some of it is because actually it's like almost an enterprise. A donor or a UN agency says, you come, we want to advise that government, and we go there without asking the hard questions. So can we really build policy procurement capacities? The last, and I think you've been discussing this, is how do we get our policies to shape research for policy? Because research is, not just being conducted, but has to be shaped by policy. And what kinds of policies within the STI policy frameworks? I don't see very much of science for policy kind of work. What kind of policies that will require governments to procure policy, and what kind of science they need. So this from my limited experience. Thank you.
Very important points raised by each of the speakers. From Bentoke, I got, from Prof. Lumbal, I just also went for the first names, sorry. We got from the experience from Denmark, we got the importance of acknowledging all types of knowledge, ensuring that we don't get constrained by working in silos, paying attention to learning organizations, and learning in silos, not only in government, but also in academia, and bringing that world of academia and practice together through the example that you gave about internships, and how, practical examples of how those two worlds can come together and have a better understanding. Gabriela, you've given us a very good example of the workings of a particular advisory body in Mexico, giving us the experience on how it's governed, how it's structured, the way in which the relationship with other ministries and the relationship with communities, the role that it plays as a bridge between different communities and the broader national innovation system that can help us reflect on experiences from other countries, and South Africa in particular. And finally, Prof. Mugabe, you have given us a lot of thought around how academic networks, well, how us as academics, but also academic networks like this can assist, can better assist the policy processes. One, by ensuring that we do research on the policy-making process. Another one is ensuring that we assist building the capacities of policymakers rather than writing the policies for them. and you made very important points around the policy procurement capacity. So what I want to do is I would like to take a couple of maybe reflections from the floor and then allow, yes, okay.
I just want to mention that I gave a concrete example of a project which took place over 4 years, I think. And it was on the Danish innovation system in a comparative perspective. And my idea by mentioning that was perhaps you could do something like that, Erika, with the support of these fantastic experts who are here.
Great. This is a this is a call for action.
Yes.
Great. So would it be okay if I take a couple of questions and then I ask you to respond, and also if you want, you would like to reflect on what each other has also said. So you can do a final round as a response and reflection from the panel. Are there any comments perhaps from NACI colleagues who may be inspired or have some reflections about what is being presented, or any other comments from the floor? Yes, we have a rolling mic. Please introduce yourself as well.
Mpho Madisha from the city of Tshwane. So I'm interested in what Prof. Lundvall said about the fragmentation, the silos that exist. I'm interested in how we break that. And I have to acknowledge from yesterday's discussion as well, where the Department of Science, Technology and Innovation has begun this process of putting budgets and planning to make the relationships concrete, so that when you create relationships between the silos, you don't just use MOUs, but you have a plan and a budget that accompanies that relationship becoming a reality. But I'm interested in figuring out what else can we do to ensure that we deal away with this fragmentation, other than the fact that, sometimes people treat these institutions like fiefdoms, where, if you're comfortable in one space, you want to compete rather than to co-create or to cooperate. So I'm quite interested in what else, since you have formulated a system of innovation idea. Thank you.
Thank you. If we have another question, I would like to take another one and then hand over to the panel. Deputy Director General, please.
Okay, this is for Gabriela. The advisory body that you are referring to seems to have been time bound, like you said, from 2002, I think, up until 2023. What was the reason for what happened at the end, and what were the reasons for that?
Great. So I will take these two questions unless there's another burning one. Great. I think people want to move into the main course as well. So can we start with the Bentoke perhaps? Is that okay?
I got,
Great. So
okay.
we can start with
First, I must confess, I'm an old man and my hearing is not perfect, but I have an intuition what you asked about. And you will tell me if it's completely wrong. I think that it's very tempting to see if you can solve these kind of silo problems. Is that what you asked about? Good. With interministerial committees or things like that. I think there are two things you can do which works, because these kind of committees does not necessarily work. One is to develop common projects where you really work very closely together with people from the other organizations. The other thing that works is to circulate people from one leading people at the very professional, high professional level, move them from one department to another. I worked at OECD and I had a Japanese boss. And he was trained at MITI in Japan. And at one point, he took all the heads of division and said, now all of you change place. And both the people themselves, the heads of division, they were very upset. And they actually mobilized governments, national governments, to try to stop this. And they actually succeeded first time. The second time, it happened. And the result was excellent. The Directorate of Science and Technology and Industry at the OECD functioned much better after we had interchanged all the heads of division. STI indicator expert become expert on telecom and so on. So I think there are these kind of organizational tricks you can use to break down barriers, but they meet resistance. We don't want necessarily to move out of a comfortable position where we feel we have a great expertise. But there are two ways, and I think there are more. I mean, they all this, but I also agree with you, which you said before. We should be more focused on innovation, on institutions, and also the organization of the public sector. I mean, a lot of our research on innovation is correctly focused on the private sector because it's a key that you have dynamic enterprises. But I also think that some of our innovation system research should look into how governments are organized and how well they contribute to policy learning and developing smart policies which really work.
Thank you. Thanks for that. I will hand over to Gabriela for last reflections.
Well, this is not a nice story because the law, the science and technology law, included the existence of an autonomous council, advisory council for science, technology, policies that was autonomous, was in the law from 2002 to 2023. Why? Because in 2023 a new law was approved in the Congress. But why there was a change? The change was the advisory council disappeared. They erased the advisory council. Why? Because the past administration didn't like it, public participation, didn't like it, the voices of the science, technology, and innovation communities. And this was the story. And I was coordinator, general coordinator for 2 years only in that organization. Yeah. And this was the final of this. For that reason, I am very happy that you have an advisory council, even though it is not autonomous, but it is an advisory council. You know? It means that there is a democracy in this country. It means that the voices of the science, technology, and innovation communities are heard in some way, you know? We don't have that anymore.
Excellent. Great, and then I'll turn to Prof. Mugabe for last reflections.
Yes, I think just the last statement, we have one good practice, or one practice, NACI. I don't find NACI like institutions on the continent. Tell me where there is a NACI. Nowhere on the continent we have another NACI. It's only here. And it leads me to my closing remark, and Professor Lundvall just made it clear. Public sector innovation is an area of research. A few countries, Namibia recently adopted the public sector innovation policy. How do you improve public sector efficiency, effective, including design, formulation, and implementation of policies of whatever kind? And I'm just urging us to focus a bit on that, get our students start thinking about the OECD as a whole framework on public sector innovation. And we need to look at it to be important, to actually influence the other innovation studies that we conduct. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you to all the panelists, and thank you for the interaction. You have demonstrated how important it is to share experiences from different countries. This was extremely valuable. I'll have to continue the conversation at our table about the suggestion from Prof. Lundvall to have that study, but that would be the main course. Thank you so much. Please give a round of applause to our panelists. Thank you.
attention. We are at the last part of our discussion this evening. After this very short discussion, and I promise Professor Razgan has promised me that it will be very short, just to help you digest your dinner. And I hope you enjoyed the wonderful dinner that you're having. So let me then allow me to introduce Professor Razgan, who's going to take the next interaction. So Professor Razgan Maraj is the Chief Director at the Tshwane University of Technology and elected member of ASAF, the Academy of Sciences. He's also an Associate Research Fellow at the TELUS Institute and serves as Ministerial Representative to the Council of Rhodes University, and is a trustee of the Canon Collins Trust. He previously led the Institute for Economic Research on Innovation at TUT and headed the DST NRF Center for Excellence in Scientometrics and STI Policy. His earlier roles included Head of Policy at the CSIR, National Coordinator of South Africa's Science, Technology, and Policy Transitions Project. Over to you, Prof.
Thanks very much, Annalyn. You know, I often get worried when the introduction or the introduction to any of us may be longer than the time we've allocated for our actual discussions. But nonetheless, it shows us, as we've heard outlined by the good colleagues earlier as well, you know, we really are in a fraternity. And I really hope that, as our leader Ben Toke had outlined, that we have a level of mutual learning that takes place. Yeah, and that's quite a key aspect in all that we are doing. If nothing else, I would argue that it's the stronger part of what we are doing. So, you know, as people that would know me without even Annalyn's wonderful introduction, I'm extremely, as opposed to Ben Toke, allergic to the notions of protocols, etc. Yeah, so you're not even going to hear me dismiss it. Yeah, I mean, just going to move ahead. We have people that we are working as in continuing to work with, and we are going to engage with them in a conversation. It's going to be quite brief because it's between us and dessert. And if you want the word just before it, we will make the justice happen on the basis of time. Yeah. So thanks to the organizers and the sponsors of this event. You know, and I have to also apologize, you know, it's a truncated dinner. I find it very odd. I say that up front, yeah. But hopefully, you know, our biophysical systems accommodate our social determinations. And keep that thought in mind, because that's the theme around which I'm going to orientate the questions as well, or our discussion. And for this discussion, I want to invite Professor Himla Sudyal, our chief at the Academy of Science, Dr. Matthew Wallace from Canada, the IDRC, my former employer, Professor KJ Joseph from the Gulati Institute, and also a close colleague, and as you've heard introduced, plays a prominent role in Globelix as well. An entry point for us engaging, you know, actually demands that we also recognize the polycrises that engulf us all. Yeah, we've got three good friends, colleagues, and fellow academics here to engage on the issues, and each one of them has prepared a little bit. It's going to be about maximum of 5 minutes that each of our presenters will contribute, and then we'll pick up in discussion form. Yeah, but again, in terms of the way in which we conduct ourselves, and hopefully that all of us gain something besides the girth that we're going to walk out with. Yeah, here's a bit of facts that we start on, and people would know in terms of the work I've done, continue to do. Yeah, I shape theory from facts, so notwithstanding what textbooks say, etc. So let's start with some facts. The United Nations Development Programme released their 2025 edition of the Multidimensional Poverty Index report, literally a month ago, yeah, towards the end of October. This report is important because some of you may not be aware. It helps inform policy at quite significant levels, including at DSTI itself. The report directly evaluates multidimensional poverty data against, for the first time, climate hazards. It exposes the extent to which the world's poor are threatened by the environmental crises itself. Yeah, and it's a disproportionate effect. Hence the notion around inequality and why during the G20, South Africa remains steadfast in foregrounding equality as a global common value that we all should be supporting. Yeah? What follows from that, of course, is notions around solidarity and empathy as well. So, according to this UNDP report, approximately 887 million out of the 1.1 billion people currently categorized as living in multidimensional poverty are exposed to climate hazards such as extreme heat, flooding, drought, and air pollution. Of that total, 1.1 billion, just over half, 651 million, face 2 or more hazards. 309 million people face triple or quadruple burdens, or 3 or 4 overlapping hazards, hence why we use polycrises to talk about issues. There's no chance for silos continuing. If they do, they are going to become irrelevant relative to the situation that they seek to locate themselves within. Or, as other countries do, isolate themselves from the reality and then be excluded from the community that constitutes the human population today. I hope you know what and who I'm talking about. The report states that responding to overlapping risks, poverty and climate hazards, requires prioritizing both people and the planet. I hope you've realized I've not used the word profit. And this is the contrast that we really have to come to grips with. So within that context itself, we're going to turn to first Professor Soodial, Himla, if you don't mind. And this is an encouragement from all of us. Himla, KJ, Matthew, Rasigan. Himla is going to share with us some of the challenges with respect to the integrity of science itself. And this is crucially important, especially in a world where the most advanced, mature capitalist economy has the best government money can buy. I've not mentioned the word integrity and how that system works. So in that context itself, and this is not just about a challenge to science. This is the destruction of the global knowledge commons that's taking place, where the largest investor in the resources that we use, the information that we use, is no longer as freely available as it used to be. So it's quite crucial in terms of us ensuring integrity in the science that constitutes the advice that then follows into policy discussions itself. So Himla, that's a good enough introduction. Please, if you don't mind. Please. Oh, yeah.
Well, this is better. At least you can see me sitting down. I usually accede to another category of discrimination, namely that of height. Thank you very much, Chair, and greetings one and all. As a senior citizen, my brain is already gone to sleep. So I will start with a bit of humor. And first, congratulate the Proteas. We won. Congratulations to the DSTI on 25 years of diligently walking us through igniting conversations on science. So last night we saw the minister and the DG and DDG done cut the cake in celebration, but unfortunately there was no music to go with it. Music colleagues, normally when I come to the stage we play Mission Impossible. Because that's my task at hand at the moment. So the chair's asked me to reflect a little bit on research integrity. And I told him earlier that a couple of weeks ago, I was invited to a meeting in the Cape, where a big meeting of all kinds of people were in the room to talk about research integrity. And I started off by saying, I really can't understand why in this day and age, we need to fly over, provinces across the globe to have meetings on research integrity, which would be the fundamental intuitive thing of what we do as academics. If we do not bring out the consciousness of using science and evidence-based science, as we say within the mandate of ASAF, evidence-based science in the service of society, then we might as well pack our bags and go sell samosas on the beachfront, because we'll be doing a better service to society that way. Research integrity is the fundamental property all of us who claim to be academics should have. And using the tools of our trade, like technology, etc., that we have, that is growing at quite an exponential phase with the technological advancements, then of course we should be doing innovation. This whole conference is about science, technology, and innovation, and we applaud the kind of progress we in South Africa have had over the decades. And yesterday we saw at the plenary people getting accolades for innovative work. And some of the work that they're doing is world-class. And yet we always shoot ourselves in the foot like we are second-class citizens. I think that on the continent, me representing, say, the Academy of Science of South Africa and academia in general, our goal should be what we've heard earlier, the collegiality, breaking the silo. Silo technology is died. You know, when I joined the academy, there are very strong compartments. I've tried to kill it, but you can't change the mindset of people. So that will to change, to transform, and to integrate knowledge systemically into the societal discourse is very, very important. And I hope that we at the Academy live by these rules of engagement. And Chair, I know we're short of time, but we live in an ecosystem where we represent the scientific voice of society. I'm not saying that we are the total, but I said we represent the scientific voice. And as such, we have a responsibility to transmit that information across the various stakeholders and the public at large. And you do this in sound bites, small little teasers to get the buy-in, the trust. I think after COVID, whatever little trust we had got buried 6 foot deep, or if you were Hindu, it got incinerated, by cremation. Because it takes a lot of work to come from that level to sow the seeds of the true value of science and what the value of research is. And as we always say, if you knew what you were doing, it is not called research. And experience is what you get when you don't get what you set out to get. So I live by those two smallish principles. And Chair, thank you very much for the opportunity. I had to bring some comic relief. This is a very serious meeting. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Excellent. No, thanks, Himla. You know, I mean, as you've heard from Himla as well, it's really important. Yeah, it's not also that we seek to see changes outside of our spaces. We must also represent those changes ourselves in terms of what we are doing. And bringing that sense into the work itself also then brings us to question, what is the source of the information behind the policies themselves? And in our combined and uneven world, or uneven and combined world to be more exact, that we still live within, yeah, we do have a huge inequity in terms of distribution of resources. Within that, some countries that have accumulated resources over a large period of time play a very important role also in determining the very scientific praxis that we ourselves investigate. Included in that is, of course, the IDRC, a key player in the international architecture and ecosystem around using knowledge, yeah, for policy work itself. So we're going to place Dr. Matthew Wallace really on the spot in terms of trying to probe what is the source of the information upon which a lot of us then submit proposals, hoping to get funded to do research to address problems that may be quite far away from Canada itself. So, Matthew, please.
Thanks very much. I guess I'll stand too to follow your example, but I feel like it might not be necessary in my case. But yeah, well, first of all, thanks for the introduction and for the invitation to sit up here with these very wonderful and very clever people. So I'm a bit I do feel on the spot, and that's a good thing, because I think the question Rasigan posed is, in my mind, sort of one of the fundamental questions of STI policy that has not been examined enough probably to date, which is, how are these decisions made? Why do we fund topic X, and why do we put Y amount of dollars to topic X? Why do we say, oh, we should put this much into chemistry or this much into this part of the world? And I think we kind of take these things for granted. As funders, we take them for granted because we say, well, this is the way it has been, and this is the way it will be, and we make little adjustments. And as researchers, I think we take this for granted as well. We say, well, here's a call for this, without really wondering how this call came about. And I don't really have the answers, but I think the first point I wanted to make is that this is a really complicated and really interesting thing to kind of unpack what is negotiated, what is socially constructed as a research call, right? And that agenda setting is something that is still very unequal. So I think as funders from the global north are becoming more attuned in some ways to these dynamics and understanding a bit more how equal partnerships work and why this is important, the question of agenda setting is still a bit lacking. So let me just make two points, sort of at two different levels. One, in terms of some of the work that we funded and that I fund within my portfolio on kind of science innovation systems. A big piece, as many of you know, is around working with science granting councils. And I think, this of course has its pros and cons and so forth, but I think it really does advance things a little bit in terms of making sure that they have the ability to set more agendas. They have the ability to be a bigger part of these negotiations rather than the IDRCs of the world or the NSFs or the CETAs and UKRIs, which do fantastic work, of course. But that they can be more proactive agents of deciding what is useful for their country. And hopefully relying on the kind of advice that we've heard should exist, whether, ideally in the form of something like NACI or the example that Gabriela mentioned, but different forms of soliciting advice from within a country and sort of taking that on, understanding what the development opportunities are and so forth. And I think this is today more important than it was maybe previously because of this, whether we call it a polycrisis, these big challenges that we face and the scarcity of funds that Rasigan just mentioned. So this is really the time to move things forward. And I think one key piece is working with these granting councils. And I'll give one example of how IDRCs worked with them recently is in the past, we have work on different topics, global health, climate change, governance, et cetera. So the colleagues in global health would have typically said, okay, based on what we've understood from our work and discussions with partners and so forth, we want a project on, maternal health in this part of the world and, something specific related to, I don't know, women in rural areas of country X or something like that, and to find a very specific call. And a couple of years ago, we started experimenting where we would just sort of say to the councils, you tell us what the call is, and you be the kind of agent of saying, in our country, what we need is not this, but that. And sort of having this intermediary function play a much bigger role rather than just going to the research community and saying, please put together proposals on X, Y, Z. So an interesting experiment, I think not the be all and end all, but something we're thinking about. And then also trying, what we've been doing lately is trying to sort of work out how funding flows work between North and South and unpacking that, which is a huge, I don't want to say a huge mess, but it's interesting, right? To actually see how money is moving across, research money is moving across the globe, and seeing where those kind of power dynamics lie and unpacking some of those inequities. So I'll stop there, and I think, yeah. Oh, back to you.
Thanks very much, Matthew. We are actually seeing the praxis also of a learning and mutuality being re-established. I'm being quite specific in raising that as well. In world systems, we all know, with respect to the extermination of extreme poverty, there was only one country that contributed the mass and scale of allowing us to achieve what we said were Millennium Development Goals and allow us to shift into Sustainable Development Goals. That's the People's Republic of China. But most recently, a state within a country has also destroyed extreme poverty. And that's the state of Kerala in is it Republic? Yeah. In India itself. And we have Professor KJ Joseph from Gulati Institute, who's going to tell us about the good practices and hopefully how the academic networks in Kerala actually got the government to focus on a real target and achieve a real goal. Thank you very much.
Hi, dear Resigan, my fellow panelists. You quite unexpected question, I must say. Wonderful colleagues of NACI and Department of Science and Technology, South Africa. My most appreciated president of Global X Network, Professor Erika Kramer Mbula. Professor Benda Kilundwal, my most loved brothers and sisters of South Africa, because we share a lot, we aspire a lot together. I note the presence of excellencies from different countries. Ladies and gentlemen, I know I'm not a labor economist. I can sue you for asking me to work after dinner. But I appreciate, I organize a lot of meetings. This is wonderful. This is an excellent innovation. Excellent innovation. I'll take it without copyright. Now, the state of Kerala on November 1st, 2025 declared elimination of extreme poverty. In India, almost 12.3% of the population, according to Niti Aayog, is under multi-dimensional poverty. In Kerala, the corresponding share is 0.55. Out of which government identified something like 64,004 households as extreme poverty and under extreme poverty, and they have been kind of emancipated out of it. That's what happened on the birthday of the state of Kerala in November, on November 1st. Something which is very unique, and I have no role in that, I must tell you, please. I must say that I can talk about the topic about at least 2 hours, 5 hours now, because 2 minutes only I have. I am someone who has enormously benefited out of this Global X network from my very joining of this network in the year 2003. I have been able to be a member of this, a board member, vice president 2 term, constitution committee chairman, president, vice now what is called, what am I now currently? I'm now Secretary General. I gained a lot out of it. I'm also most fortunate that I had the opportunity to interact with very high level policymakers at the national level and currently at the regional level. It is not because of any of my merit, but because of the wonderful people whom I got an opportunity to interact with that got a lot of ideas. I must tell you that in 2004, when Mr. Lula, president of Brazil, visited India, and he declared what is called a New Delhi Declaration. In 2005, in South Africa, a report called Trinity of the South was released by then Prime Minister of the country, Dr. Manmohan Singh. With a lot of humility, I would like to say that I was the lead author of that report. And if at all there is anything on innovation, I learned from Global X Network. And I had the opportunity also to be the key drafting person of India ASEAN Vision 2020. Again, 28 points, of which 4 or 5 were essentially leading to innovation-related matters, where I learned a lot from Global X Network in terms of learning, innovation, and competence building systems, and also from Amartya Sen. These are the two set of thought process that influenced me. And now when I talk about knowledge, Global X Network believe, Professor Lundwal says, knowledge is the most important resource of the modern economy. My dear friends, in my state, we say, Vidyadhanam Sarvadhanal Pradhanam. That means knowledge is the most important resource. What is there from this great idea from the Scandinavians? Nothing. But they say that if knowledge is the most important resource for the modern economy, the most important process is not manufacturing. It is not mining. It is not trading. It is learning. You heard it correctly, learning. What involves learning? In India, when I was a student, learning is basically a mugging up. I am a first rank holder in my 2 degrees. I mugged up the textbook. I got first rank. But according to the innovation system framework, learning is quintessentially an interactive process, not mugging up. That interaction you can see in your home. That interaction is contingent on, conditioned by the institutional framework, the rules, the norms, the customs, the traditions, the practices that influence your interaction in your family, in your classroom, within firm, between firms, within country, between countries, inter-country, intra-country. And that's in that essentially, I don't have the time to elaborate. What is true globalization? That should be a globalization wherein interaction is free. What is the interaction? What is the globalization that we have? That is partial globalization. The mobility of all factors of production for the North has got comparative advantage, is free to move finance capital, physical capital, commodities. What about human labor? When you talk about learning, Lundwal already said about what is called DUI, doing, using, interacting, and STI mode of learning, that which can be documented, easily transferred. But in Kerala, if Kerala is having highest human development index, if Kerala is a Kerala model, it is not because of STI mode of learning, but because of DUI mode of learning. Now, what I want to say is that in Kerala, I think to the best of my knowledge, in 2020, the peak of COVID-19, different finance minister who happened to be my senior colleague in the university, He put up a budget which is transforming a regional economy to a knowledge economy. And the GlobalX colleagues from 28 countries gave feedback on that budget. That is the interactive space. A workshop starting at 8 o'clock in the morning, going up to 2:30 at night. This minister sitting throughout. And today he is running, he's not a minister now. He is now addressing a specific problem came out of that budget, that particular discourse from GlobalX community. You have highly educated women labor force, but you have the lowest women labor force participation. Why don't you address that? I can go on and on, my dear friends. The learning, the kind of insights, the kind of ideas that GlobalX community upholds, the kind of perspective that we profess, I am of the view from the bottom of my heart that it is of much high relevance for the today's world, which is, I would say, confronted with issues of much higher order. And I'm sure, I am sure we'll have another opportunity to interact tomorrow. I'll take up that at that time about diplomacy. Thank you very much.
So, thanks so much, KJ. And you know, as we've heard previously as well, real life examples, also bring forward maybe some issues which may be uncomfortable for people to actually engage with, especially in terms of the history that's brought us to where we are at present. This is something that I've heard across both at the GlobalX event as well as at the Science Forum that's taking place simultaneously. There are other events in the city as well. It's not just the only two. Why? Because vested in the city are a range of knowledge resources. But what's quite critical is us asking the question, to what extent do these knowledge resources actually contribute to improving the quality of life of the citizens of this area? And what we've heard, and it's really positive to hear, international organizations starting to pay attention to what the local conditions are and understand demand from that perspective, not just in terms of the architecture that you're inviting people to be part of. In many instances, that scaffolding that holds up that architecture is also what contributes to the negative situation that much of the world majority that they find themselves within. This emphasis on political economy, I continue to stress, is absolutely critical for us. And within that, we are involved in a battle of ideas. So colleagues, I really want to encourage, this is a time for more ideas, not less. This is not, and please don't be fooled by politicians who tell you we've had enough research, go and implement, because we see the consequences of such short-sightedness in front of us. It's also important us recognizing the contestation over ideas, and that this be given respect, as we've heard from everyone. The integrity of our work should shine through, not necessarily under whose shadow or whose patronage you push forward what you think society needs. That's the form of positive engagement. We had a huge throwback in South Africa, and all the colleagues from government can relax a little bit because I'm saying this. It's not coming from an official. If you want a dialogue, it means you are exchanging ideas. A dialogue is not someone standing here and telling you what to think. And if we engage in that, we must be strong enough, taking ideas of integrity, taking the examples where people have not thrown away tools such as planning, coordination, using information. That's what I've learned in Kerala. And with IDRC and other groups now coming together because of the generational shifts within it, notwithstanding the governments, of course, that people are bringing to the fore integrity and ethics, of care, of empathy. This unlocks value. These are not negative features itself. We should not be afraid of it. So on that, and seeing that you have a plate in front of you with a lot of sugar, can we also ask if there's anything anyone else wants to raise before Annalyn comes to close? Remember, you have the sugar in front of you, if needed. Please, Bhutan.
This is for Assad, right?
No, no, it's for the whole system. Oh, you, Eric.
Let me congratulate the organization for this event.
Oh, say who you are.
We need more of this across the city, and I'm glad that ASAF actually took the initiative, NACI, to participate in this. And my question is one, and frankly, it doesn't have to be answered tonight. How is it possible, right, that at the CSIR where we are, we've got apparently from the DG, 6,000 people who are registered for the event, and 99% of the people who attended that event are Black, right? And 99% who run the system are Black, right? And yet, the beneficiaries of the system are not Black. I don't need the answer. I've got to depose my point. Considering how long I've been in the system, it's a very uncomfortable for me to say, but it has to be said, right? When we have international guests who come from all over the world, they come to South Africa, they see Black people. If you look at what we produce as a system, right? We've got 4 or 5 universities that produce that. And you look at the names that produce that. Doesn't reflect who attends the Science Forum. So I'm simply deposing a dissatisfaction that I have, which I hope in the discourse of ASAF, it gets to be engaged. And Himla knows, she's been in the system for too long. This has been one of our distress for too long. But you can't change, it takes time. My point is, do they have ideas on how we need to change the system? That's all. I don't need an answer.
No, thanks. Bhutan, we were going to ask you to introduce yourself, but I mean, just from the comments itself, you'd also recognize this is one of our stalwarts in the system. It's been in a long time, been in nearly all the organizations that he himself has mentioned as well. So it's quite critical that we ourselves, as Bhutan has argued, come towards answering this. The question of racialization is a global issue. It's most peculiar to our situation, but it exists internationally. It's part and parcel of the very architecture and scaffolding that I've been talking about. Yet it continues to reproduce itself. And within that context, the question of accountability that's also raised. We have a science forum. We have massive numbers of participation. But do we actually measure? Are all 26 public institutions represented, just as a starting point? Yeah. So they are critical issues, and they all touch on the similar things. But the object being through this, hopefully, that we bring more people in with the ideas to actually change the system. Yeah. And we need to protect those ideas in terms of them also being points of contestation. Yeah. I'm not answering the question, but Anna has given us that. That hopefully we all think of it. It's not something we want continuing in perpetuity. But I would suggest, without being cynical, that if we really want to confront it, we must acknowledge it as a problem to start off with. That does involve us measuring the problem, having a sense of the quantifiable element, and that we test with people themselves in social discourse. That's the only way we're going to get buy-in to the solution side as well, yeah? Lest we get stuck on transitions, not transformations, yeah? So, colleagues, you've had a very deep philosophical question that has huge, huge ramifications for us, yeah? So let's hope we keep that in mind. Annalyn, I see you wanting to get up. The sugar's working, so please. But colleagues, any other comments?
I think
Excellent, thanks.
Okay. Well, Let me introduce myself. I am Franco Arandiarzabe from Bolivia, another global South country. I have a question. Well, we have with this community of Globelix, with this type of support, with this collaboration between seniors, young scholars as me, and others participating in this type of events, what will be the best advice to do to make good connections, but also to go and go deeper in order to make a better solution in this type of connections in the innovation itself? We know that our countries needs a lot of different things about it, and I would like to know based on your expertise, what could be the best advice. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for that. I noticed there are hands going up, but I've also realized they're reaching out to grab plates, not necessarily to speak. Cheesecake, not answers. There you go. No, I mean, we've got to add a bit of levity. These are serious things you are asking as well. And the Bolivarian transformation itself is an example all of us need to learn from. I'm not convinced everyone even knows what Bolivia has gone through, the threats it currently faces, and the contradictions, challenging it itself. These are things we need to bring into our classrooms. These are things that have to progress beyond the classroom to actually challenge the power structures that give us this world system. So towards that end, there may not be manuals as yet, but we know the praxis of bringing about social, economic, and political change. And whether we appreciate it or not and put the spade work behind it, change is inevitable. As we've been sitting here today, another country in Africa has decided it's not waiting for election results. And Guinea-Bissau has had a coup, and this is going to continue the longer we have those political structures not listening, not engaging. And as a consequence, people treat it as irrelevant to the actual issues confronting us itself. So we need to be aware of it. There is a pressure on us. There's also a pressure on us getting out into the communities and working with the community towards solutions. It's not about having the perfect answer that you deliver to someone, as in something that you sign off. And once you've signed it off, you expect it to obtain the results. As you've heard from everyone on the panel itself, they're complex issues. We need to continuously unpack them because our views and the diversity of views really are important. Otherwise, we'd have solved the problems already. So failing us not having solved the problems as yet, we do have institutions that we want to build towards that purpose itself. Things like the National Advisory Council on Innovation are amongst the instruments available to us. But I would also encourage we take a view that's wider than just the Advisory Council. There's work that takes place at local government level that requires innovative thinking. You're not necessarily going to get a national council discussing those types of issues. We have over 280 local governments in South Africa itself. Does each one of them require a NACI? No, just think of it in that form. And how much more important it is at a local area to have scientific knowledge being made available, to then challenge the way in which development takes place. And that starts redressing the issues that we are raising in a negative form itself. So making knowledge work in that way also becomes quite critical. It's not just about having a solution that everyone flocks to. You all know how dangerous it is when people talk of total solutions. And remember, we are living through genocide taking place around us at present. That's very much linked to those that thought they had the total solution as well. So let's be aware of those things. These contestations must take place, and let's hope that through institutions such as NACI and others, that they afford us the opportunity to challenge policy, to bring evidence into play that speaks to our specific conditions and allows that interaction that we try to co-construct solutions. So Annelien, please, don't you want to relieve us a bit? But I'm going to ask the panel then, if there are other closing remarks. Matthew? Excellent. Anything, you know? KJ? Not a lecture.
No, that's the point. I can't, professors can't talk 5 minutes.
There you go, right? That's a definition, yeah. So we're really good. We're good on time, so please, Annalyn. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Prof. Himla, you've got your mission impossible. Yeah. So before you get settled, I asked all the panelists that were on the panel and the facilitators, let's take a group photo while the other colleagues eat their dessert. After the group photo, we're going to do closing remarks, and then you can leave at any time. So let me first ask for the panelists and the facilitators to come forward, because our DDG would like to leave. Yeah.
It's easy. I know where to go. Similarly, I think you might go.
No, it's fine.
Yes. Let's do some. Yes.
I stand by you.
I think I'll see someone in the middle. Okay, that's it.
Go sideways.
Thank you.
I will tell you that. I'll only use it with copyright.
Okay. Can I ask DDG Zwane to please come forward, just as a token of appreciation? All the speakers to please come forward to get a token of appreciation. Professor Sudial, please come forward, Matt, just as a token of appreciation. Eric, we're just handing over the gifts, and then we'll do the closing remarks. Yeah. So thank you very much. Please come forward, just get your token of appreciation.
Yeah, please. We can exchange it if it is, don't worry. Let me know.
So while we get the token of appreciation, thank you to all our panelists. Can we just get your attention for a few seconds, colleagues? Colleagues, can we please get your attention for a few seconds as we do the closing? Dr. Tingo, Dr. DDG Patel, Balisa, can we please do the closing? We understand people are tired. We've reached the end of the evening, so we're also trying to close. So thank you very much to everybody. We hope you've enjoyed this dinner. I'm going to hand over to Professor Erica to give thanks on behalf of UJ, and then I will do the closing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I won't take more than 30 seconds. I just want to say thank you to the National Advisory Council on Innovation. This has been a great partnership. in hosting this dinner. I think it's been extremely, extremely informative, and all the panelists have done a great job in keeping the audience engaged. So thank you so much. Thank you, Annelien, for your leadership in ensuring that this dinner was a success. So yes, that is all from me. Thank you so much.
Now, thank you very much, Prof. Erica, and also for the partnership we had with you, Jay. We're going to really keep it very short to say thank you to everybody. Hope you enjoyed it. We hope you enjoyed the dialogue. Thanks to all the partners, the speakers, the panelists, the representatives, and enjoy your dessert. The dinner is officially closed. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah. No, thank you. No, it's very good now. Yeah.
I want to take a picture with you if this guy
Yes.